Thanks for tuning in. This podcast is brought to you by DigiKeys. I'm Ethan Carter, and joining me today is Madison Brooks. Together, we'll share tips to help improve your focus and concentration.
It's great to be here. In today's world, focus can feel like a superpower.
It really can. Everywhere you turn, there's another distraction vying for your attention. So, to help you reclaim your focus, we're going to deep dive into a technique called the Pomodoro Technique.
It's a classic for a reason, and despite the fancy-sounding name, it's actually incredibly simple to implement.
Okay, so imagine you're facing a mountain of tasks and feeling overwhelmed. Where do you even begin with this Pomodoro Technique?
Picture this. Instead of staring down that entire mountain, you break it down into manageable chunks. That's the essence of the Pomodoro Technique. It's about working in focused intervals, traditionally 25 minutes each, separated by short breaks.
So it's like climbing that mountain one step at a time.
Exactly, and the beauty of this approach is that it aligns with your brain's natural rhythm. Our brains aren't designed for sustained, unbroken concentration. We naturally ebb and flow between focus and fatigue.
So the Pomodoro Technique works with our brains, not against them.
Precisely, and this is where that trusty timer comes in. You set it for 25 minutes, and for that entire interval, you commit to working on a single, specific task.
Hold on, before we get to the timer part, let's talk about choosing those tasks. Any tips for setting yourself up for success?
Absolutely. It's crucial to choose tasks that are specific, actionable, and measurable. Instead of vaguely writing down work on project, break it down into smaller, more concrete steps.
Give us an example.
Let's say you need to create a presentation. Instead of overwhelming yourself with the entire project, your Pomodoro task could be something like draft the outline for the presentation or create the first 3 slides.
So bite-sized pieces that feel achievable within that 25-minute time frame.
Exactly. And once you have your task clearly defined, then comes the commitment to that 25-minute focus sprint.
Okay, let's talk about that focus sprint. How do we actually stay on track for that entire 25 minutes, especially in a world full of distractions?
That's where the real challenge and the real magic lies. It's about creating a distraction-free bubble for yourself.
So, no checking emails, no scrolling through social media, no multitasking.
Exactly. Think of it as a mini digital detox. Silence your phone, close unnecessary tabs, and let those around you know that you're in a focus zone. The key is to eliminate anything that could derail your concentration.
And then, the moment we've all been waiting for, the break.
Yes. Those breaks are not just a reward for your hard work. They're a strategic part of the technique.
So, we're not talking about just mindlessly scrolling through our phones.
Definitely not. Remember, the goal is to reset and recharge so you can return to your work feeling refreshed and refocused.
Yeah. What are some good ways to spend those breaks?
Think about activities that nourish your mind and body. Stretching, walking, getting some fresh air, listening to calming music, or even just closing your eyes and taking a few deep breaths. Anything that helps you detach from work and come back feeling re-energized.
Okay, so we've got our 25-minute focus sprint followed by a 5-minute break. What happens next?
You simply repeat the cycle. You do another 25-minute Pomodoro, followed by another 5-minute break. And after 4 Pomodoros...
I got a supersized break.
You got it. After 4 Pomodoros, you take a longer break, somewhere between 15 and 30 minutes. This gives your brain a deeper reset and helps to prevent burnout.
This is making a lot of sense, but let's be honest, staying focused for 25 minutes straight can be a challenge, especially when you're first starting out. Any tips for those of us who might struggle with that?
Absolutely. It's important to be patient with yourself, like any new skill. Mastering the Pomodoro Technique takes practice. Don't get discouraged if you find your mind wandering, or if you struggle to resist those tempting distractions at first.
So it's okay if we don't nail it right away.
Absolutely. It's a process, not a perfection contest. Start small. Maybe try just 1 or 2 Pomodoros a day and gradually increase the number as you get more comfortable.
That takes the pressure off. And I imagine there's a bit of an adjustment period as you figure out the ideal work interval lengths for different types of tasks.
That's a great point. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. The beauty of the Pomodoro Technique is its flexibility. If you find that 25 minutes is too short for certain tasks, like those that require deep focus, feel free to extend it to 40 or even 50 minutes.
Now, longer sprints for those more intense tasks. And what about the opposite? What if you're working on something that requires less sustained concentration?
Then you can shorten those intervals. Experiment with 15 or 20 minutes for tasks like brainstorming, responding to emails, or doing quick administrative tasks. The key is to find what works best for you and the type of work you're doing.
This is all about customization and finding your own rhythm. But what about those unavoidable interruptions? How do we deal with those when we're trying to maintain that laser focus?
Yes. The eternal struggle against distractions. The first line of defense is to create a distraction-free environment. Silence your phone, close any unnecessary tabs on your computer, and communicate your focus time to those around you.
Easier said than done, especially when you're surrounded by well-meaning coworkers or family members.
I hear you. But even small adjustments to your environment can make a big difference, if possible. Find a quiet space where you can work uninterrupted. And if interruptions do occur, try using the interruption log technique.
Yeah, what's that?
Simply keep a notepad handy, and whenever an interruption arises, jot it down and then gently redirect your attention back to your Pomodoro task. This way, you acknowledge the interruption without letting it derail your entire focus session.
So it's about acknowledging those distractions without letting them take over. Love that. But let's talk about motivation for a second. How do we stay motivated and keep that momentum going when we hit a wall or start feeling a bit burnt out?
Great question. One strategy is to connect each Pomodoro to a tangible goal. Instead of just vaguely working on a project, set a specific objective for each 25-minute interval.
Give us an example.
Let's say you're writing a report. Your Pomodoro goal could be to complete a specific section of the report or write a certain number of words. Having those clear milestones makes your progress more tangible and helps to maintain motivation.
So it's like breaking down those larger goals into bite-sized pieces that feel more achievable.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of rewards. Promise yourself a small treat, a quick break to stretch and walk around, or even just a few minutes to listen to your favorite music after completing a set number of Pomodoros.
Those little rewards can make a big difference. It's like giving yourself a pat on the back for staying focused.
Exactly. It's all about celebrating those small wins along the way.
This is all starting to feel very empowering. Like we can actually train ourselves to become more focused and productive.
That's the beauty of the Pomodoro Technique. It's not just a time management tool. It's a mindset shift. It's about recognizing that you have the power to shape your own focus and productivity.
I love that. So it's not about forcing ourselves to work harder, but rather about working smarter.
Precisely. And speaking of working smarter, let's talk about how to maximize the benefits of the Pomodoro Technique. Tracking your progress is key here.
Okay. What are your favorite ways to track progress with the Pomodoro Technique?
There are a few different approaches you can take. A simple method is to keep a log of what you accomplish during each Pomodoro session. You can use a notebook, a spreadsheet, or even a dedicated Pomodoro app.
What are the benefits of keeping a Pomodoro log?
It gives you a visual representation of your productivity and allows you to identify patterns in your focus and energy levels. For instance, you might discover that you're more productive in the mornings or that certain tasks consistently take longer than you anticipate.
That's valuable information. It's like having a personalized productivity map.
Exactly. And once you have that data, you can adjust your approach accordingly. You can schedule your most challenging tasks for your peak focus times and allocate more Pomodoros to tasks that consistently require more time.
It sounds like a process of continuous improvement. The more you use the Pomodoro Technique, the better you become at understanding your own work patterns and optimizing your workflow.
Exactly. And don't forget the power of reflection. At the end of your workday, or even at the end of a Pomodoro session, take a few moments to reflect on your experience.
What kind of questions should we be asking ourselves during those reflection moments?
Ask yourself, were there any times when I struggled to focus? Did certain tasks take longer than I anticipated? What could I do differently next time to improve my focus and efficiency?
That's so important. It's not just about going through the motions of the Pomodoro Technique, but rather about using it as a tool for self-awareness and growth.
You got it. The Pomodoro Technique isn't a magic bullet. It's a framework for intentional work. And the more intentional you are, the more you'll get out of it.
I'm definitely feeling inspired to give this a try. But before we send our listeners off on their Pomodoro adventures, are there any other resources you recommend for those who want to learn more or find support along the way?
Absolutely. There are a ton of fantastic resources out there. If you want to dive deeper into the philosophy and methodology of the Pomodoro Technique, I highly recommend Francesco Cirillo's book, The Pomodoro Technique.
So going straight to the source.
Exactly. It's a quick and insightful read. And for those who prefer a more visual learning style, there are countless videos and tutorials available online. A quick search on YouTube will provide a wealth of information.
And of course, there are those handy Pomodoro apps that we mentioned earlier.
Yes, apps like Focus Keeper, Be Focused, and Forest offer customizable timers. progress tracking,
Yeah.
ambient sounds, and even fun gamification features to keep you engaged.
So it's like having a personal Pomodoro coach in your pocket.
Exactly. And don't forget the power of community. There are online forums and groups where you can connect with other Pomodoro enthusiasts, share tips and tricks, and find support and encouragement along the way.
That's a great reminder. It's always easier to stick with a new habit when you have a supportive community cheering you on. This has been such an insightful exploration of the Pomodoro Technique. I feel like I've gained a whole new perspective on focus and productivity.
It's been my pleasure. I'm always excited to share strategies that can empower people to take control of their time and attention.
And speaking of empowerment, I think it's important to emphasize that the Pomodoro Technique, like any productivity method, isn't a magic bullet. It's a tool that requires effort and commitment.
That's so true. It's not about finding a quick fix, but rather about cultivating a new way of approaching work.
Right.
One that prioritizes focus, intention, and self-awareness.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Beautifully said. And the most important thing is to approach that journey with a spirit of curiosity, experimentation, and self-compassion.
I love that. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Pomodoro Technique, what final words of wisdom would you offer to our listeners who are eager to give it a try?
Start small. Be patient with yourself. And don't be afraid to experiment. Find what works best for you and your unique work style. And remember, the key to success with any productivity technique is consistency. Make the Pomodoro Technique a habit and watch how it transforms your work.
That's fantastic advice. And remember, you don't have to go it alone. There are tons of resources available to support you on your Pomodoro journey, from books and articles to apps and online communities.
Exactly. We're all in this together.
Well, Madison, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you for sharing your expertise and insights on the Pomodoro Technique.
It's been my pleasure, Ethan. Thanks for having me.
And to our listeners, we hope you found this deep dive into the Pomodoro Technique helpful. Remember, it's all about working smarter, not harder.
And if you're looking for more resources on personal growth and concentration, be sure to check out our book, Ability to Focus.
You can find Ability to Focus along with a wealth of other resources on our website, digikeys.com. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe for more content. Visit digikeys.com for resources on personal growth, and check out our book, Ability to Focus, to improve your concentration. See you next time.